Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for attending part 2 of our D&H and T-Mobile 5G webinar series titled Sell 5G Like a Pro, the Technical Deep Dive. Thanks for joining us, and for those of you who were on 2 weeks ago, thank you again for joining with us today. And for all D&H partners, it goes without saying, but we know you could be anywhere today. You could be doing lots of other important things. So the fact that you're taking a few minutes out of your busy day to spend time with us is not something that's lost on us. So we hope to make this productive. It shouldn't go too long. And again, we'll get started. In part 1, we focused on the business opportunity around 5G and how partners can monetize wireless connectivity. And today we're going to dive a bit deeper into the technical side of the conversation, helping all of you better understand the network, the hardware ecosystem, and how to confidently position these solutions with your customers. Joining me today are 2 colleagues of mine at D&H, both Josh and Corey Morgan, that are sales engineers that work with me and my advanced solutions team on all things networking. And we have 2 folks from T-Mobile, both Zach McLean and Chelsea, who will cover promotions and super broadband opportunities, as well as a deeper dive into the T-Mobile network. All right, so let's set some expectations. Whether you're already selling business internet today or just getting started, the goal today is very simple. Help you understand how the connectivity or the technology works, show you where the opportunities exist, and give you practical next steps to start driving 5G solutions. Let's jump in. The agenda, it's kind of simple. We're going to recap a little bit of part 1 for those who didn't join. We will talk about the D&H hardware ecosystem. We will talk about the T-Mobile network, a little bit more under the hood, and why we too at D&H believe it's the best 5G network in the United States. We'll talk about a few additional hardware options that can be sold as a service, and a bit more about T-Mobile and their super broadband press release and newest offering. And then lastly, we'll close up with some next steps. All right, so a recap. For those who joined us back in part 1 just 2 weeks ago, this will sound familiar. And for those who may be joining for the first time, this is a great foundation to get started. The first takeaway is that resilient connectivity is no longer optional. All of us are traveling all the time. We're home office, we're hybrid, we're work office, we're on the go, we're at the airport. All we ever want is good internet access. Doesn't matter if we're on vacation or splitting time between vacation and work. We just want good internet access. It's a given. Everybody wants it. Excuse me, I didn't mean to move forward there. Secondly, so with customers expecting their networks to stay up, downtime impacts revenue, employee productivity, customer experience. So 5G gives our partners a simple, fast, low-cost alternative way without complexity and delays to provide traditional, as an alternative to traditional connectivity or ISP relationships. The second takeaway as it relates to D&H and T-Mobile is this isn't this isn't a new opportunity. This is about creating additional revenue from a one-time activation and ongoing residual basis by simply selling the data plans through our partnership with T-Mobile as a sub-agent you could become on all things that are already wireless connected and ready, that if they don't buy it through us, they're going to go buy it somewhere else. They're going to go to the carrier directly and have those internet services turned up. So this is our opportunity around networking, security, infrastructure, cloud, endpoint. There's countless opportunities where 5G recurring revenue opportunities exist for us in the channel. The third takeaway is the combination of D&H, CellHub, who is our primary agent, and T-Mobile is a great combination with many tier 1 networking products that you're already buying from D&H or from distribution at a large that have 5G connectivity. The 2 primary use cases that we talked about 2 weeks ago was business internet failover as well as primary business internet. And Josh and Corey spent a lot of time talking about organizations now at the end user level, whether they're an MSP or they're a small healthcare or a dentist office or a small construction company or some temporary office while they're doing work on premise, needs internet access. And there is a very, very quick way with the carriers like T-Mobile to turn up temporary or full-time primary or failover internet. It's easy, it's clear, it's quick to turn on. You don't have to wait for the ISP provider to come out, and it's relatively inexpensive. Whether it's failover or it's your primary, you're talking anywhere between $25 a month for 10 gigs of internet, upwards of $60 a month for 100 gigs of internet. $60 a month for unlimited internet. So it's a relatively low-cost alternative to traditional ISP lines, whether, again, that's for primary or simply for just failover when the ISP has an intermittent downtime. All right, with that being said, we'll get started on some of the new things today. So let's talk a bit about the hardware ecosystem. I think we're heading on to Josh and Corey.
Hey everyone, my name is Josh, and today Corey and I are going to be talking about all the different vendors and products you can utilize at D&H in conjunction with 5G fixed wireless to come up with business continuity solutions and internet redundancy that is both affordable and has strong ROI like Adam was talking about. Corey, can you explain what exactly is fixed wireless and what are the benefits of how it can be used?
Sure. So fixed wireless services like T-Mobile use RF or radio frequency signals to deliver internet service to the home or business. The installation is a lot faster than your traditional services. You don't have to wait on somebody to dig a trench or run a line to the building in order to get that installed. So in that sense, being so much faster can provide you have like an emergency or anything like that come up, it can be like, you know, a quick internet in the home. It can provide you with dependable service and speeds without a physical line. So that's really nice in that aspect. Currently with 5G, it can be used as a backup service or even as your primary internet service, depending on your needs.
Okay, thanks for that breakdown. So now we know what fixed wireless is and what it does. Let's talk about how we can integrate it with an on-prem appliance like a firewall, a router, a gateway, and the different vendors that D&H carries. So D&H carries a lot of different vendors that have solutions to support business continuity in the event of an ISP outage. With how cloud-focused business has become and remote work dependent everything is on the business side of things, anytime you lose the internet, which is essentially the lifeblood of all the resources that you need, this can have really bad major impacts to your business and your reputation. On the screen here, we have all the different vendors that D&H currently has that supports solutions that have dual WAN, which is really the big requirement here to make this all work together so that you can take advantage of T-Mobile's 5G cellular failover or even using it as a primary internet in many use cases. We do have some more vendors that support dual WAN that are coming in the future, so just keep tuned and make sure that you listen to any of those announcements. Now, some of these vendors do have next generation firewall appliances that kind of cater to more advanced security focused features. And a lot of these firewalls also have better visibility, really useful management platforms that really cater to how MSPs handle multiple clients. And these use cases really make remote access more of a necessity, which further benefits having something like 5G failover to not only the end user business to make sure that business is continuing and all of that, but also to the IT provider or MSP that manages that business so that they don't have to send resources, boots on the ground to go on site. They can handle things remotely in the event of an incident. And then even that goes further on to the vendor side of things who may need remote access into that environment if they have any issues like database corruption, things like that, that we talked about on the last webinar. So on top of that, Corey, let's talk about the benefits of going with T-Mobile as a cellular provider over all the different cellular competition that's out there. And you start.
Sure. So again, with T-Mobile and fixed wireless, you get that much faster deployment of the internet service. This can help in situations where you need a connection fast. Say you have an internet connection down, you have to get something out there quickly, or you can also create internet redundancy quickly. And that isn't actually relying on any like wire coming into the business or last mile infrastructure. So you can get fast and reliable internet service you can count on quickly.
And then I think the biggest benefit, in my opinion, is that T-Mobile really has the largest 5G footprint in the mid-band, which is the kind of like the sweet spot in coverage on the cellular side. With mid-band, you kind of get a balance of everything that's really important and all the mission critical services. Like with coverage, you make sure that you have the availability in your area to actually receive that 5G signal. Then on the speed side of things, you're making sure that you have the throughput and bandwidth you need to keep everything running. And then also on the capacity side of things, if you're in an area that's very high dense, it can handle, mid-band can better handle those high dense areas. And then also with penetration, it's making sure that this coverage can actually penetrate into the building that you need it to and not just outside of that building. So all these different benefits that T-Mobile gives you really kind of avoids all the compromises that that the competition uses and the competitors have in cellular service. So really the victory and the W goes to T-Mobile here. And we'll further get into a lot of these benefits in the upcoming slides. But that's the big benefit with T-Mobile.
Thanks, Josh. Thanks, Corey. Anything else?
That's it.
No, I think that gets us to our polling question.
Yeah, so we've got a polling question coming in. There'll be just 2 of them. So if you folks would take an opportunity to maybe give us a response here. And if you got any questions about anything we're talking about as the presentation rolls on or the webinar rolls on, I'll be happy to address them. And Mr. Patel, I do see that there is a question in the chat, and it's a simple one. Do you have the previous recording from the Webinar 101? The answer is yes. It lives at DNH's YouTube channel, and I believe at DNH.com's website, and we'll get that out to all parties. So it is posted there, as it takes about a week before it curates and gets posted, but we'll get you that copy. All right, hopefully we've addressed the polling question, and as it relates to the continued subject matter at hand, what Josh and Zach were talking about relative to the T-Mobile network and why DNH chose to partner with T-Mobile as our 5G carrier of choice, we're gonna hand this off to Mr. McLean, I believe, to talk a bit further about T-Mobile's network. So take it from here, Zach. This is your slides.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Adam. And Josh and Corey, appreciate you kind of leading into some of the things that I have to say as well. Great setup. So we at T-Mobile, of course, believe we have an awesome network, and not only an awesome network, the absolute best network compared to any of our competition. Here's some of the numbers that help back that up, and then I'll share some other facts with you in a moment. But over the last couple of years, we've built a network that covers 2.3 million square miles with 5G coverage. That's not talking about voice. That's not talking about legacy technologies. That's only talking about 5G coverage, which is what we care about today when we're discussing fixed wireless. We cover 98% of Americans with that. And because you have mobile applications that you could also put into motion, no pun intended, beyond fixed wireless, 95% of that is on the highway miles, where you're going to have devices and applications that can utilize that. But also mobility with 5G is important these days. We have a lot of conversations on it. There was some discussion around spectrum. We absolutely have the best spectrum position in the industry today. And the way we say it is our sub 6 gigahertz spectrum, our position in that is better than anyone else. And we utilize different frequency spectrums for different purposes. You heard propagation. Our low band frequency spectrums like 600 megahertz propagate over very long distances, and they penetrate through walls and building structures much more easily than some of the mid-band frequency spectrums we have. However, you need both. So when we talk about this, maybe you've seen a picture, we have a wedding cake style representation of our spectrum. And in that, we have a little bit of low band spectrum to give us a coverage layer to penetrate and propagate further inside the buildings where you need it. But our coverage layer, performance layer, is our mid-band spectrum at 2.5 gigahertz. That spectrum, we have so much of it, we can offer speeds up to a gigabit in some areas leveraging that spectrum. You're typically going to get 200, 300, 400 megabits per second, depending on where you are on the network conditions. So absolutely stellar performance compared to what we might have seen with 3G or 4G, if that's what you've seen in the past. Again,
hey, Zach, Zach, maybe one quick comment. Something I learned over the last couple years working with T-Mobile, just briefly explain that there's only a finite amount of spectrum to acquire, if you could. So it's not like all the other carriers can just up their spectrum capacity if they want to.
Our spectrum is like real estate, and it's a good point that you're making, Adam. I think we could all relate to the idea of beachfront property. The beachfront property with 5G is the mid-band spectrum. Why? Because it lives in that sweet spot between being able to propagate just far enough that you can build out a network with good coverage, but it can also carry enough data, have enough capacity. And we have over 200 megahertz of spectrum that's consistent nationwide. Little pockets have more or less, depending on where you look at it, but a very consistent portfolio of spectrum that our competitors simply can't match. And so that's why when we look at Ookla speed test, open signal, and you look at the performance, we're knocking it out of the park because we have so much spectrum available to us. Okay?
Thank you.
Great question. No, thank you. That leads us right into, we've got 40% more capacity that we're able to offer than our competitors, and oftentimes up to 2 times faster speeds than our competitors, based on some of the performance or speed testing third parties out there that take a look at that. Stand out from anything else, though, is we should think about the future. We should think about future proofing. And we have built the first, and I believe still the only, 5G standalone network across the US. Now, what does standalone mean? It's kind of a silly thing to say. Well, it's part of the 3GPP specification for 5G. And it's really important. Once we've achieved standalone, I have a slide on this in a moment, that allows us to introduce a lot of additional capabilities or advanced features of 5G that carriers who have just set up a 5G network and offered 5G connectivity can't do, because the core of their network still depends on 4G. And I'll come back to that. But when we get to the advanced capabilities like carrier aggregation and network slicing, and there are many more, it really sets us apart and differentiates the T-Mobile network. It differentiates you offering T-Mobile as part of your solutions because of those capabilities as well. You'll hear from Chelsea about super broadband, which leverages components of that too. All right, switch my slide here.
While you're doing that, there was a question that came in about 5 minutes ago. I want to make sure I just stay on point with these. Can you register a deal for T-Mobile for public or private sector? And if so, how do you go about it? As we get to the end of the presentation, one of the outtakes or calls to action is if you want to become a reseller of 5G connectivity with D&H and T-Mobile, you can be a sub-agent, because there's no reason for you to register a deal if you're not going to be compensated on it. So there's a very quick process by which we can onboard you as a sub-agent to us and T-Mobile, where you then can receive compensation for that registered deal once it's activated through T-Mobile. So more to come on that. Thanks for the question. Back to you, Zach.
Yep, absolutely. So just comparing coverage. I'm a visual guy. I like to kind of see what the differences are when I think of 5G. And just from the visualization on the map, you can tell our 5G coverage is much denser than any of our competition, equating to that 2.3 million square miles or 334 million POPs covered. And specifically with our high capacity mid-band spectrum at 2.5 gigahertz, we have 318 million people covered. Now you put both of these together, or those two slides together, what does that really mean? Where do you see the proof on our claims that we actually operate the best network in the US? Well, we can say it, but I think it's better when it comes from somebody else. So Ookla has named us the best mobile network for 3 consecutive times in a row. I think we all know who Ookla is. We've probably gone and looked at their speed tests, or you ran a speed test based on, or they're using their website, speedtest.com. And OpenSignal has ranked us the best overall experience 6 times in a row. So both exciting metrics. And I think if you'll just try it yourself, if you haven't used T-Mobile in a while, or your customers haven't, give it a go. You'll be surprised how seamless it is, where 5G is available you wouldn't think it would be, and the performance you get is outstanding. We love you running around everywhere running speed tests for us.
Thank you,
All
Zach.
right.
Great stuff.
Let's add in just another little nugget that's kind of new. Many of you know, if you've watched press releases about T-Mobile, that we have a partnership with Starlink. And this partnership was really interesting, and we launched a technology called Direct to Cell. And essentially what that did, if I could just put it in layman's terms, is we took our cell tower technology with 5G and adapted that to work on the satellites in low Earth orbit that Starlink had put into space. So low latency, high capacity satellite capabilities coupled with T-Mobile capabilities for cellular coverage. You have to have a compatible device. There's a few other things that need to work along with it, but we were the first to do it, and we're starting to leverage that in more and more offerings. Beyond fixed wireless, which you'll hear about super broadband, which includes Starlink or satellite backup capability, which is really great. Most of our mobile devices like these also can leverage T-Satellite, which is a direct-to-cell technology. You'll see more and more of that in the coming months and years, I would imagine. And right now, there's over 650 of those satellites launched. So you have great coverage across the U.S. already. Okay, moving on. Now, my team, or my function is solution engineering, and my team works with our partner community like yourselves every day. We get 50 to 100 requests a day to ask us to check coverage and eligibility for fixed wireless applications. I wanted to take a minute just to break down how we do that and some of the things that we take a look at. Because it's one thing to look at a map and put in an address and you see this result that says, yeah, you got 5G. But we want to also make sure that it's going to work for your customer. And we have a lot of internal tools that we leverage to make sure this is a possibility, and we're giving you the best direction that we possibly can. The map that you see, just tell you it's made up. I wanted to be able to show you one of our internal tools. Our marketing, our legal teams, we're not in agreement that I do that, which is fine. But I'll try to explain to you some of what we do, and just imagine there's a really cool high-tech tool there that we're taking a look at. So when we get a request from you for 1 site, 3 sites, 10 sites, 1,000 sites, it really doesn't matter. We are going to package that up internally to check coverage and eligibility. Coverage means the RF coverage layer is there. Eligibility means that there is capacity. We're looking at our network capacity in a given area, and we're making sure that we can support the application like high-speed business internet can be supported in that area, and if it can, to what degree, right? Is it unlimited? Is it capped in some way? So we take a look at that first for you, but then we're also looking at the different bands of frequency spectrum that we have in a given area. So I put this table in, might be interesting to some of you. This is a list of all the different bands that we utilize for 5G across the country, not necessarily in every area, right? And we'll see tower by tower, sector by sector, based on the address you give us, what's available. And then we'll look at coverage classification. So we have things like IBC, IBR, IB, that means in-building commercial, in-building residential, in-vehicle, outdoor coverage. And what we're looking for are minimum thresholds here that our devices can support. And specifically in a 5G fixed wireless access type of application, we're making sure that the placement of a device, if it's going to be indoor, has a chance or is going to be successful working. Or if we need to recommend to you, you have some coverage in the area, but maybe you need to think about external antenna, or maybe you need to think about an external gateway instead as you're positioning something with your customers. Okay? And that's part of looking at the device too. Devices perform differently. They have different capabilities. They support different bands, so we'll compare that. Then we also have tools that give us an idea of performance expectations. We can take a look at, I mentioned a second ago, please run speed tests for us. Well, we see some of those, and we buy information from some of those folks like Ookla to give us an idea of what our performance looks like in a given area. So we have a lot of different ways of obtaining this. I can't share with you all the different ways that we have. But what's exciting about it is we get an idea in a lot of different areas what your performance might be like. Is it going to be 30 megabits per second? Is it going to be 300 megabits per second? You probably want to know. And then understanding what your customer's use case is, point of sale transactions versus video, will that capacity be sufficient for that application? We can also help you with placement, like saying the towers to the north or the towers to the south. You want to orient your external gateway or your internal router on this side of the building or in a window. Things like that are usually pretty helpful. And in some use cases, we can actually go on site and do testing. Now, that's typically going to be with a product that we offer, like super broadband. We'll do it as part of a site survey. But we can talk about options if you have a large opportunity that we need to take a look at. We're always excited and interested to see what you bring to the table and your opportunities.
Thanks, Zach. I know you have real quick, Zach. I know you got 2 more slides. Another question came in. I think it's appropriate and timely. We have and you don't have to resolve it now, but we have a partner from All Solutions, Mr. Patel again, who I believe is stating they're in Livingston, New Jersey, in an office. They've got quite a few dead spots out there. So Chelsea, Zach, maybe this will be an opportunity for us to follow up with them and do some speed tests and just figure out what's going on in that particular area of the country. I mean, we want to know where we have gaps, if you will. So if we can make a note for the meeting, and we'll get back to them on that particular address. Sound good?
Yeah, that'd be great. We would definitely love to hear. And I would say to everybody too, it's worth checking in your individual case if it's going to work or not. Right? We do demos, trials. We do extensive coverage analysis, like I just showed you. Any of those things are going to be really beneficial to making sure it works, because your house, your building, the tree in the backyard, you live in a depressed area, like a bowl in terms of terrain, all those things are relatively critical.
Thank you. We'll get back to you. And I know there's another question. We'll pick that one up at the end of your session here after these next few slides. Okay. So thanks, Richard, for your inbound question. We'll be back to you.
Yeah, thanks, Adam. All right. Let's talk for a second about 5G standalone and what this means. This is a real differentiator for T-Mobile. You're not going to see a standalone network with our competition. Now, what does it mean when I say 5G standalone versus what's on the left side of the slide there, which is 5G non-standalone? It all comes down to the device. When it connects to the network, where does the device register and what does it anchor to? What is the jump-off point for connecting it to data or making phone calls? Now, many carriers, ourselves included, in the early days of 5G, we just wanted to get 5G out there. We wanted to be able to say we have 5G, and so we threw up the radios real quick, and it's something you hear as 5G NR or 5G new radio. We put that up right away. But all of the logic that occurred in the network, all of the internal routing and functionality and policy controls, that all had to be anchored back within a 4G network core. And we had one too, we still do. But because of that, you couldn't offer any of the advanced features because 4G was limited. It doesn't support the notion of many of those technologies. So looking ahead, we moved to a 5G standalone network, which is 3GPP standard, which all 5G networks should be aspiring to achieve. And that has enabled us to launch a lot of new services, which I'll get to on the next slide here. One of which is, I mentioned carrier aggregation. Carrier aggregation is really cool because it allows me to take mid-band spectrum that are not contiguous, right? Different blocks and different chunks, and put those together into one aggregate bandwidth channel that your device or your fixed wireless router can utilize for higher speed, higher capacity. The cool thing about that is now I have flexibility across many markets. As a carrier in the United States, these spectrum blocks come up for auctions at different times. You get different chunks, cost billions of dollars. You take what you can get when you can get it. So to have a technology that really bonds all those together to work and act like one is really important, and it works really well. That's one advanced technology. Another is the slicing, which I had mentioned. Slicing is really neat because it allows us to tailor experiences for specific applications. So let me give you one of the biggest ones that we launched last year you may know of. It was called T-Priority. And this gave priority access and prioritization of data and guaranteed capacity to our first responders. We all love our first responders, right? If it's a hurricane, a fire, some natural disaster, we want them to be able to be on site and be able to communicate. But in dense urban areas, or when communication networks are down in some way because of that natural disaster, that could be a challenge. So we needed a way to prioritize their communications over others. That was enabled through network slicing. We created a slice for their devices that were compatible, and they were given priority on the network above and beyond anybody else. So that's one use case that was really important. There's other ones that may be more applicable to your customers. We've launched a retail slice, or we call it 5G Transact. And it's a really cool slice because we recognize that in a retail environment, what do you care about? You often care about the point of sale, the ability to continue to conduct business, even in congested areas. Think about a baseball game. Think of a downtown busy city center, right, where you've got a lot going on, a lot of people all congested there. You may not need high bandwidth, but what you need is low latency and a guarantee that that transaction is going to go through. Because you don't want somebody waiting at your credit card terminal, not being able to make that transaction. They might say, it's taking too long, I'll see you later. So Slice like that prioritizes low latency, guaranteed transactions, but for low bandwidth as well. We have that ability to tailor performance. QoS I've already mentioned, but we're also able to introduce additional levels of security because it's logically separate from the rest of the traffic on the network. And then future flexibility for any future or any new use cases that we come up with. We're thinking of new slices all the time that we have not released yet, but will be. Another one I will mention you may be interested in is super mobile. Super mobile is not super broadband, so don't confuse the two, but it is a slice dedicated for business users, which give business users priority over our typical users on the network. So think your consumer customers, think your high-speed internet users. You want business customers, your business customers want to have a higher priority on the network to do their daily business. All right, my last slide here is just to talk about some of the requirements of slicing. It's really cool. We would definitely want everything to utilize some of those features and capabilities, but it's worth mentioning we need compatible devices and compatible OSs along the way. And of course, we have to assign a slice to a specific device. We have to assign that profile to an account and the devices on it. And then our network has to be primed for it. Like the slices have to be loaded in the configurations of the towers. And we absolutely would do that. And it's pretty automated process, but make sure when you're thinking about it and you're thinking about the ability to use a slice that you're working with us to understand, is my device and my application and my use case compatible with this? And we'll be happy to tell you about the options that we have available. Okay, Adam, that's it for me. I'll pass it back to you.
Okay, thank you. A couple things. Next up, there's a polling question, and while we're polling you folks on that question, I also want to address the question that came in maybe 20 minutes ago. So Richard out of, I think you're with ARS Information Technology. So I'm going to recite it here. So the brand you mentioned, the last I read, as a UEFI, I read has a 5G, but it's tied to AT&T. There are many other brands out there and gateways or routers, like Cradlepoint for one, and then others that we have used for standalone gateway, or some that have wired or dual WAN or failover. Corey, Josh, why don't you see if you can address this question for the audience?
Yeah, I think he means Unify. And I believe also on the Unify side, on the 4G LTE side, they are tied to AT&T, but on the 5G side, right now they're certified with AT&T and T-Mobile, and coming in the future will be Verizon. But on the 5G side with Unify, all are good for T-Mobile with what we're talking about.
All right, thank you for that. I hope that addresses your question, Richard. And then the response to the polling question clearly is about speed of deployment. And I think Corey touched on this. I mean, turning on a 5G connected router as your primary or failover internet service provider at a small business is so much faster than a wireline. You're not calling anybody. It's probably pretty much a self-activation. And we're hoping that we can use this as an important way to kind of get you folks into the 5G connectivity business. And again, before I move it on, we're probably 2/3 already through and good on time. I just want to mention again, 2 reasons why D&H chose T-Mobile as their 5G for business carrier of choice. One, everything that Zach just mentioned. That's important, right? We want to sell the best, and in distribution, you sell typically all of the products. But in this case, as we were building out our 5G connectivity practice as part of our advanced solutions business, we wanted to lead with the best. But here's the most important, if not that. It's the richest compensation model for partners. So if you want to build a 5G connectivity practice and you don't want to have to understand everything about it, your partnership with D&H and CellHub as our primary agent and T-Mobile provides you all of the resources to get started. And we'll talk about that as we close up the session here in 15 minutes. But it's the richest compensation model. So if you're going to be in the business of building a 5G connectivity practice around your already existing business, why not get paid handsomely for it? And we'd be happy to kind of step you through what those commissions are. Not only one time for the activation, but on a monthly recurring basis for the ongoing data plan that's been activated. That being said, we'll continue. All right, I think it's back to you, Zach, for 2 more slides, and then we'll close up with Chelsea. So back to you, Zach.
All righty, we wanted to talk just for a moment about business internet. So I just want to differentiate here, you have a couple of options with fixed wireless from T-Mobile. We can sell you, or you can sell, I should say, you can sell rate plans to your customers. You may have customers with devices, and we've talked about some of the different hardware manufacturers you have available to you. You just need a SIM and a rate plan, we have that available. We also offer our business internet service inclusive of the equipment if you wanted it. And Inseego, Cradlepoint, and Meraki are 3 hardware options that we have available. They can be turnkey. They're modern devices. They support modern capabilities, but you'll need to think about your opportunity, what you like to position, and what the customer's needs are, which one is best for you. We just wanted to put them out there to make you aware. Let me hit the next slide. If you are interested in the Inseego device, which is our default business class device, I'll step back just for a second here and say you may hear things like Arcadian or Nokia or some other off brands from T-Mobile. Those are more consumer class devices. The business class device, though, that we're offering currently is the Inseego FX4100. And optionally, there's an accessory to expand the coverage for Wi-Fi using the X700 mesh unit. It's been a successful device for us. It's on its 3rd maintenance release, which is really good news. That means they've really refined the software, how it works, its performance, also how the mesh units pair. They made that easier. You can also perform a speed test right on the device to see what kind of performance and coverage you have. It also supports an external antenna if you wanted to use one of those with the device. So it's a good all-around device. I would not classify it as an enterprise class device. There are other options available for that, some of which I saw on the earlier slide, which may be great options for equipment and may align with a managed services practice that some of you may offer too. So whatever is the best fit, we're here to help. We can go either direction. And then Chelsea's going to position our super broadband product and tell you about that here, which you could utilize as well as a great service to complement what you already do. All right, those are my 2 slides. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, and then we're going to finish up with exciting news that was recently put out for T-Mobile for Business around super broadband. So we'll turn over to Chelsea, and then we'll wrap up with some call to action and ways to get started. So Chelsea.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Adam. Thanks, Zach. Hi, everyone. My name is Chelsea Gehrig. I work with T-Mobile for Business. I'm a national account manager. And I want to kind of add on to the business internet conversation and talk about something that's super exciting that's coming out to channel on August 1st that combines our fixed wireless and satellite failover. But before I kind of get into the slides here, I just want you to think about the last time your internet went down at work, or the last time a customer's network went down, or you're working with that customer at the remote site that just never really worked right. Right? That's the problem that we built super broadband to solve. This next slide, it does a pretty good job of illustrating kind of the root of that problem, in that most companies are piecing together their internet access, and they're doing that location by location. So you might have one ISP here, a different ISP there, and then adding backup solutions to that just adds cost and complexity to the overall process. And at the end of the day, what your customers end up with is dozens of separate contracts, multiple points of contact, multiple bills, and add on to that, you get into the remote and hard to reach areas. Those customers kind of just learn to live with the experience, right? I'd argue that it's not so much a technology problem as it is an actual infrastructure problem, right? And that our traditional network infrastructure was not built to support the way that businesses are operating today. So super broadband is built from the ground up and the sky down. This is a turnkey WAN solution that pairs T-Mobile's network, nationwide 5G network with Starlink satellite coverage. So now we can reach locations that no traditional ISP ever could. And we automatically keep your customers connected even if one link goes down. What you end up with is one provider, one contract, and one network that allows your customer's business, that follows your customer's business wherever it operates. T-Mobile manages the equipment, the service, the failover, so that your customers get a fully managed, business-grade, always-on connectivity as part of one turnkey solution. And for all of you partners out there who serve all these businesses, right, this kind of changes what you can offer in a big way, right? Because super broadband takes the WAN complexity off the table. That means your team spends less time on carrier escalations and troubleshooting ISP problems and more time delivering the actual managed services that your customers care about. So super broadband builds a stronger, I would say, stronger foundation for really everything that you're already selling. I know Adam mentioned it before, but security, right? Cloud management, endpoint protection, and compliance, and the full managed services stack that your customers rely on you for. I would say when the WAN is solved, you become a better partner. And so now you have access to customers at remote sites. You have access to multiple location customers where you couldn't standardize before. And I would say even access to verticals, right, that require always-on connectivity. I think some of those are called out on this slide here, but healthcare, retail, construction, logistics, right? All of these customers now, they come into scope. So this is, like I mentioned, this is coming out to the channel August 1st. So I would encourage you to follow up with your T-Mobile 5G team at D&H to learn more. Just that, we've got some exciting things ahead with our nationwide network. Oh, Adam, are you on mute?
Sorry about that. Yep. So Chelsea, while you were finishing up, there was a couple questions that came in. I addressed them in the chat, but I will kind of restate them. How can this be used in healthcare offices for doctors? My response there to that question was that that is a really hot vertical right now for T-Mobile, D&H, CellHub, where we're helping healthcare organizations in a distributed fashion in lieu of like traditional Wi-Fi. So 5G fixed wireless is a big opportunity. I think we need to follow up with that particular partner, and we will do so. There was a question about speed deploy wasn't selected from the survey. I think it was probably just a delay in the results. So James Martin will get back to you on your answer there and how we can engage with you. And then one other question from Richard. I'll give this to Zach real quick. One issue I have with Inseego, they have a great app and remote management, but I can't use it because T-Mobile support is the one that has it set up and has their account. My message was buy a different product. Go ahead.
Well, that was probably the answer. Absolutely. But just to confirm, Richard, those Inseego devices are managed in our instance of the Inseego Connect portal. Every one of them we register so that our remote support teams are able to manage those, which is probably what you're seeing. It is our policy to continue to do that. So if you do want something with more flexibility that you can manage in your own platform or management system, you may want to look at a different option. Can I comment on Mr. Patel's question as well? How can super broadband be used in healthcare offices? Are we good on time, Adam?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, just take a minute or two before we wrap up, but sure.
Sure. So I just want to call this out as an absolute great use case for super broadband. And I'm going to go back just a couple of slides just to make a finer point here for everybody. If you could picture for a moment this being a doctor's office, you know, and I don't mean the hospital, the main hospital. They're going to want multi-gigabit redundant connections from different providers. That's a different use case. But let's think about an urgent care or a physician's office, you know, an environment like that. This is perfect for an office that has 20 to 30 staff. They're doing office records back and forth, emailing patients. They're sending stuff back and forth. They have access to electronic health record system like Epic. This is going to be perfect for something like that. And in an environment like that, all their communications are critical these days. Everything's electronic. So to have a redundant capability is really nice. But I don't want to overshadow that a lot of these customers like this might have existing internet connectivity. So you don't need to look at this as an all or nothing approach. There's another version of this slide that off to the left, we show how it can integrate with an existing cable modem or fiber type of offering or building tenant type of internet. It can easily integrate with that. And if you, as part of your offerings as a partner, what you package around it are a managed services provider, you could provide all those things. So they could actually get the benefit of 3 connections. Now that sounds like overkill, but think of how critical it is to have communications these days. Plus you might want to load balance some of the communications for greater bandwidth and capacity. So Mr. Patel, that is an excellent question and an excellent use case. And we can take that and apply it to many other use cases too. Thanks for that time.
Maybe follow on comment or question, and then I'll jump back. Secondary offering for rollover.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Few other quick things. Let's talk housekeeping. How do you engage? It's kind of simple. D&H, there's a singular email address and a landing page that we have built for any partner on this call that wants to learn more about 5G connectivity, wants to potentially consider the easy process of becoming a sub-agent so you can be compensated for the sale. We will help you as the partner, and SellHub as our primary agent will support the sale and the end user relative to data plan selections, help with hardware selection, et cetera. And so we're here as an extension of your organization. We're looking for you folks who are interested to identify the person within your organization, probably within networking or some area, maybe a pre-sales engineer or some leader over that particular area of the business that says, you know what, I don't want to sell networking products without having the conversation with my customers going forward about 5G connectivity. We'll do the rest. All you need to do, TMO5G at dnh.com. We'll take it from there, or you can go to the landing page that's already out there and built for all partners, which again is dnh.sellhub.com. Those things will be provided to follow-ups who are registered. We will also get the recording out on the webinar 1, which is now live and recorded to, again, dnh.com, as well as the D&H website. And I'll leave it open for just another 30 seconds for any other questions that could come in from the partner community before we close up. Any last questions? Okay, so again, I'm going to close by saying on behalf of D&H and certainly our partners at SellHub and T-Mobile, we want to thank you for your time today. Again, you have a choice in distribution. We are grateful that it's D&H in all facets of your business, but hopefully the single largest takeaway from today is if you want to be in the business of selling 5G connectivity, you don't have to be the subject matter expert. We will do that for you. Where you're selling networking, where you're selling endpoint devices, where you're selling tablets, where you're selling anything that has a 5G capability, let us help you benefit from the more consultative discussion and yield ongoing commissions and additional gross margin for your company to enjoy by having that strategic discussion. With that being said, we thank you again. Enjoy your afternoon, and we'll see you next time. Take care.